Okay. So good morning, everyone. So being a very first day, we are not going to see in much very detail about Power BI. We'll see something very basics. People who are from non-IT especially, so they would be very not very confident about what exactly we are going to learn and what are we are going to do in the real time. So especially for them, and of course, people who are in IT, they would know these things already. But just for everyone, we'll see some basics. Then we'll go on to Power BI topics. So once we finish the training of Power BI, we are going to work with the data. That is very important thing in your career for non-IT people. So people who have experience in IT before and switching to Power BI role or any BI role, you work with the data. So data is from many forms in from many places, and the real time you work with many teams. For example, data is not only you work on the data. There are different teams in your company, in your organization. Like we have database teams and database architects and database developers. We have a DBA team, which is called database administration team, and we have ETL team or data engineering team, and we have BI team, we have data warehousing team, and we have data governance team, we have data science team. We have many data teams in your organization, so you will fit into this BI, business intelligence. So when you get a job in Power BI or any other tools like Tableau, Looker, Oracle OBIE, there are many BI tools in the market. So we are learning Power BI from Microsoft, which is a demand, and also it's easy to learn, and also it has some lot of scope in the future as well. So once you join any company, you are going to work with data and also with many other teams in the company who works with data. So these people works on databases only. So they works on database developers and database administrations. And architects, like who defines the architecture and scope of your company's landscape, they are DB architects. So you work with them. There are chances. And we have ETL developers. So these are the people who do integrations from various sources of data into a data warehouse. So you also work with this ETL team to discuss about your tables and fields and data structures and everything in the backend. And we have data governance team. So these are the people who streamline the process in your company about how the data should be stored and how it should be governed properly with some rules in the backend in your databases. So these people will work accordingly. And data science team. So majorly there are different type of analysis we do. There is something called descriptive analysis. So for example, if you are going to analyze something what has already happened, that is called descriptive analysis. So in the BI, what we are going to do is, so in a company, for example, they have some business. It can be any business. We'll discuss about more about business in next sessions. So in real time, we use a term called business every day. The business can be from, depends on the company, they do various businesses. So we'll see some very, more examples. What is the business we call in real time, and with some, the metrics that we use in any company. So these metrics that we derive in Power BI is more of descriptive. What was happened already in the current year or in the previous months or previous years, and what is the position of your, the company's financial situation or any analysis we do called descriptive. That is we do in the BI. There are other analysis called predictive analysis, and I have one more thing called prescriptive analysis. So these things come in more of data science. So even for predictive and prescriptive also, we use some BI tools like Power BI. We use Tableau. So for this, it's more of like coding, machine learning, AI in the backend. And for us, BI, it's more of only descriptive analysis. So in future, this is only for your starting point. So once you grow in your career in BI and once you know out and out of your data, the way how you work in the real time, we have high chances of switching your career to data science also in the future. So that's the overall idea how you work in real time with other teams and what you are going to do in the real time, which is descriptive analysis. Clear so far? Any questions for non-IT people especially? Clear? Okay.
Yeah, it's clear.
So let's also see what is the actual process you are going to work in the real time. And we have something called architecture that we see very often in any company. So let's see that, and we will discuss about more in some time. Okay. So for the people who are very new to data and new to business intelligence, so what exactly is this? So if you understand this PDF or this presentation in detail, so you'll be able to understand many things in your real time. So the first thing is we work in the data and we have to make sure that we present the right data at the right place for the business people to take some decisions. That is called BI in general we call. So what is the process we see in the real time in general if you work in the BI environment? First thing is requirements gathering. So for example, once you join any company, so as a Power BI developer or Tableau developer or any reporting developer or any BI developer, the first thing is you are going to create some reports for them. The reports is based on the company business. It could be financial reports, it could be HR reports, it could be your daily operational reports, or it could be based on your other sales operations or any other business your company is doing. You're going to require gather the requirements for there to create the reports. So to give some example, if you see if you take any company that we know generally, let's say PBR. So PBR, they do the theoretical business. So underlyingly in the PBR, so you are going to create reports of the footfall of your audience. For example, if they release a new movie in the theater, they wanted to see how is the footfall. Footfall means how many people attending the cinemas and what is the head count of the people in the cinemas. That is one of the analysis we do. And every customer, like we go and purchase the tickets for the PVR, and we generate some sales, right? So they wanted to see something about revenue of the PVR. So like this, even they wanted to see something about the employees within the PVR. They wanted to see the employee headcounts and their performance. Everything is the analysis we do. It is just for example, we will see more in next days. So that is the first thing called requirements gathering. If a business is coming to you and asking to create some reports, they will come with some requirements. That is the first step of your work started. Sometimes in the companies, you will take the requirements, or there'll be a person called business analyst or business partners. We call in two different ways. Either they create or either they take requirements on your behalf and they pass on to you from the business and you work together in any organization. Second thing is data discovery. Let's say, for example, my business came and he told he wants so and so reports. Let's say 2 or 3 reports. Yes, we can do these reports, but before knowing the data, we cannot even proceed. The next step would be data discovery. Might be the requirements, whatever they provide, is in different systems. Let's say one requirement is from one database, the second one is from some other database. So we have to analyze the requirements and understand where the data exactly exists in your company, in which databases, what are the tables we use for that, what are the columns we use for that. We have to first understand these things. Then data extraction. So let's say, for example, your data is not available in your database, which is called data warehouse. I'll just briefly touch about data warehouse in some time. So if the data is already part of your data warehouse, yes, we can directly take from there into your Power BI and we can do reports. If it is not available, we have to do something called data extraction, which is your ETL team task. So ETL stands for extract, transform, and load. So we have a dedicated team in any organization called ETL team or data engineering team. So they try to extract data from various sources and they load into data warehouse. So I'll show the architecture of data warehouse in some time so that you'll get some more understanding of what is this data integration and what is this ETL extraction. And once we extract the data, there are different storages we can use for data lakes, like for example, data lakes, or we use something called data warehouse. So once we gather the requirements, then data discovery and analysis, data extraction if it's not available, extract to data warehouse. Then on top of this, in Power BI, we do data modeling, which is very crucial and important phase in Power BI reporting, not just in Power BI, any business intelligence reporting, we do something called data modeling. So where we connect different tables into a single view with the help of something called relationships, we call in something general. So with the help of these data modeling, we can able to create reports in Power BI or any other BI tools. So once data modeling is done, we go for visualizations. So once we have data available, you have to show this reports in the form of visuals. So in Power BI, or if you just see in Google, if you just type for Power BI reports, you will see a lot of visuals. You will see a lot of bar charts, pie charts, the line charts and all. These are the visuals we use to create or to showcase your data in your data model. Then once it is done, we deploy them. This is the process we do wherever you go across the world. The same process applies to each and every one of us. Only thing is the business will change. It means the company, whatever the business they are going to do, only these things will change. And more or less, all the process remains same. Is this clear? The process that we are going to do in the real time. Any questions? Okay. Now this is the architecture we follow. So we will be part of a team called data management team in few companies, or we will be part of a team called data analytics team. So it depends on the company, the names may change. So we'll be part of any of these two teams. So what we do in general, this is the different sources of data. So we get data from our own company's systems. We get data from any Excel files or CSV files, any file system databases, file system sources, or we get data from different, streaming sites, like for example, Facebook, Twitter, or any other online sources also we get data. So from this, we all integrate into data warehouse. So who will do this? Your data engineering team, which is also called as ETL team, does this operation for you, and your work starts from here. So once data available in your databases, which is called data warehouse, in other words, from there your work starts to build the reports. As I mentioned, we can do descriptive analysis, we can do data science, machine learning, everything starts from here. So even if you join your company tomorrow, you're going to make sure that data is available in your databases. If not, you have to coordinate with other teams, as I mentioned earlier, and make sure data is available in this database. Then you start reporting to Power BI. So that is what we are going to do in the real time. Wherever you go, the same process. Then what exactly we do? As I mentioned in the beginning, we have something called requirements gathering, right? So who will give the requirements? Your business user. So who is that person? So for example, in your company, let's say there are someone called business team, where all the managers, senior managers, or different operations team works in separate, team. These are called business teams. Business teams who actually sees the operations in your company, and they only come back to you and give the requirements for them to see the reports. So they will ask you to build something, the requirements, in other words, and your data analyst, which is, as I mentioned, in few companies we have a team called data analyst team or business partner team or business analyst team. So where they gather requirements from the business and they will pass on to you, to create these things. Or in few companies, you and business partner, go together to the business and gather the requirements. Anything can happen, depends on the company size and how they operate in the backend. And once we have the requirements, the data engineer does their job, and then our team, like BI team, does their job, and create the reports. Before create the reports, we have something to do called metrics. Metrics means the calculations. If the business asks, okay, I want to see my total sales, or if I want to see total revenue, or if I want to see how many products are sold, these are called metrics. We derive all these things in the Power BI in the language called DAX. The language is DAX, called data analysis expressions. This is differs from tool to tool. For example, in Excel we use we write some formulas. That's expressions we call. In Tableau, we have this language. That's a different language. In Power BI, we call them as DAX language. So using DAX language only, we create all the metrics in Power BI. So that we will see. So once we start Power BI Desktop and Power BI Service, we'll see about DAX in our sessions. And what will happen once data warehouse is built and we create data modeling layer within Power BI. On top of this, we create the reports in Power BI Desktop for the users to access those reports and take some decisions. This is your role in your company. Day-to-day life, this is what you're going to do. So all the logics that we create, all the metrics that we create, we can store either in data warehouses or either you can store in the data modeling layer within Power BI Desktop. Either of these two places, we store our logics or metrics, I can say in other words, for the reporting in Power BI Desktop. Sometimes we don't create the reports. The business itself creates their own reports, which is called self-service. It means the backend data model itself you create, like extracting data from different sources and creating the logics like metrics in Power BI Desktop and everything you do. So you will give the data model to the business. So they will just drag and drop after preparing the data from your side, and they create their own reports. There is sometimes business people who are very interested in the Power BI reporting or any kind of reporting. So they will do these things. In few companies, they may also follow like only the back end part you will work, and front end part which is not very important for them, business people will drag and drop the data for the visuals. You may also see these things in your real time. And then we have something called data storytelling. So once we extract the data and once we understand the requirements from the business, we have to, as a developer, means once you join any organization, if you're going to create reports in Power BI Desktop, the first phase is understanding the data. If a business is giving some requirements, I have to first analyze the requirements and understand the data. Then we have to present this in a proper visualization. Visuals means in Power BI we have different visuals like line chart, bar chart, table visual, matrix visual. There are even more. So it's not just about understanding the data. It's also about to present the data in a better manner, in a better shape. That is, we have to check something called effective visual from Power BI. Then we have to remove some unnecessary clutter. For example, data, not everything is clean. We have to apply some filters in your report, or we have to remove some unwanted data from your report. All these things we also have to do in the process of your reporting. Then we have to focus attention on your details, what you're presenting to the business, and what exactly they're asking, and are you giving the same thing or not exactly what they're expecting. So we have to focus on building the reports. Then combining all these things, we have to present a story. Story means like whatever they're asking, we have to present these things in a better manner for them to understand these Power BI reports for the analysis. This is exactly the thing you're going to see or do wherever you go. Irrespective of the BI tool, it can be Tableau, Power BI, Looker, any other BI tool, the same process applies to each and every one of us in any company. Clear? So far, any questions? Bipin, are you, I don't know, is it any question? I see your name, that's why. Clear so far? What are you going to do in the real time, and who are the teams that involves, and what are the steps you perform in the real time?
Yeah, Murli, it's clear. I was just wondering, like, if you could just, after some time, help us to know the market of Power BI and the importance of Power BI versus the rest of the analytics environment, like Tableau and other Click and all.
Sure.
Yeah.
So let's proceed. Before we see the data architecture of Power BI, so let's understand the importance of databases in your role in the organization. So I was telling this to everyone, people who are from IT, non-IT, and who are there for IT for a long time in other departments, not in data department. The SQL, the SQL, I can say it's very important to understand about SQL. 1 second. Okay. So I keep talk about SQL. So once you apply for any job in data side, especially in Power BI or any other reporting environment, so we work with in any company with databases. I can say it's data, but data can be from different forms. For example, if you ask me, I am doing reports data from Excels, I am doing reports from CSV files, I am doing reports from databases and from streaming sites also. So depends on your company, the source will differ. So even in the Power BI in the training, we are going to see many sources that you extract data from, different sources to Power BI desktop, but that is not limited. So maybe tomorrow, if you join any company, they may use some different source. For example, we learn Microsoft SQL Server data source, but in your company, they might be using Oracle. Please accept if someone join. So they might use Oracle. Or maybe you learn in Oracle how to use Power BI reports. In other companies, maybe they use SAP or Salesforce or any other technology, any other, the backend. So backend doesn't matter. The only thing is data matters. It could be from databases, it could be from file system, or it could be from any kind of form of data. Power BI, as long it supports, we can extract data to Power BI desktop and we can do data modeling and we can create reports. But why DBs or databases especially means most of the companies, at least the day-to-day work of you in the real time is from databases only. Whether you can work on Excel, CSV, or streaming site doesn't matter because these will be limited to some extent. But most part of your work is from databases. So what databases we generally use in real time? It could be from Microsoft SQL Server, which is MS SQL Server in other words. Can you please accept the person? And we have Oracle databases. We have Postgres databases. We have other ERP tools like SAP, Salesforce. There are many sources we use in the real time. So depends on the organization, the source will also differ. In one company, they use MS SQL Server. In most of the companies, we use Power BI with MS SQL Server because Power BI is from Microsoft and also MS SQL also from Microsoft. That's why you will see mostly MS SQL Server. But it is not limited. Even currently, I'm using both. I'm using MS SQL Server and also I'm using Oracle also. So it could be possible you can use also multiple sources of databases in your company. That is why if you know at least SQL, basic SQL, like MS SQL Server, because I recommend this one because you will see most of the companies use MS SQL Server. If you know SQL basics, like how to create a table, how to extract data from a table, how to use select commands, and how to write joins. Joins are very important thing that you should know in SQL. In the real time, we work with multiple tables. So for example, if you see Excel has different sheets, sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3 like that. But if you take databases, we'll have multiple tables and not all the data is part of one single table. So we store data in multiple tables with the help of something called relationships. And we also have something called constraints in SQL Server. So we should know these things. I'll tell what are the topics we should know in SQL, especially for the people who are coming from the very first time to IT or who don't have SQL experience. I will share the previous SQL basics I have told to other batches, or I can show some sources for you to learn. If you have any questions in SQL, you can also reach out to me. I'll help you understand. So SQL is very important, as I mentioned. So, but what are the topics you should know in SQL? This chart also I'll share. So, for example, this is your, let's say you are learning SQL. The first you should focus on these things: DDL, DML, DCL, TCL. These are the commands, the standard commands we use in SQL. So whether you use Oracle SQL or Postgres SQL or Microsoft SQL, the concepts remain same. Only thing is the syntax we use. I mean, the code we use might change a little bit. That's why if you use MS SQL Server, if you learn MS SQL Server, that is really helpful for you in the real time. Even if you go for any interviews, they don't ask whether you know SQL or not. Because if you are going as a BA developer or any Power BI resource or any BI resource, they expect you already know SQL by default because Without SQL, we don't work on real time with these things. That's why they expect that you know SQL. Sometimes in the interview they may also ask about SQL questions, but not for very experienced person. If you're going with 2 years, 3 years experience in Power BI, they may touch about okay, what are the languages you worked in the backend. They may ask some questions. That is why you should be able to understand these things, and also you should know some functions in SQL called this aggregate functions. We have some text functions, we have some date functions, and we use some day-to-day SQL if you're working. So we use these commands like group by, having, and order by, and we use joins, which is very important in Power BI as well as in SQL. So without writing a join, you cannot work in Power BI, because if you are working on multiple tables in SQL Server or Power BI, we should use joins for sure to combine the data from various tables. So at least if you know these things, the basics, not very detailed. If someone asks you to extract data from 2 or 3 tables, you should be able to extract with the help of joins. At least if you know till that part, you are good to survive in the Power BI. Because in Power BI, most of the things in the backend we use joins only in the data modeling and all these things. So these things are helpful for you. So you can check these websites, which is free SQL. We can learn from here with interactiveness. For example, if you go to these websites, we have a theory at the top, and also there will be a window for you to practice, together. So you can make a note of these things. You can try any of these two. But I saw the first one, mode.com, is good when I go through these things earlier. So you can try these things. And earlier I was showing one, in the PPT. I mean this one, which is the architecture. This one. So where we have various sources, we are coming into one database, into data warehouse, and from there we do reporting. So this can be the example of how the architecture looks. But the same architecture I'll show in different way. Now see here, the left side of your screen, like marketing platforms, sales CRM platforms, e-commerce platforms, all these are different sources or various sources where we have the data. It's not just about only one platform. There are different marketing platforms in the complete, across the world. There are many CRM and Salesforce, CRM platforms across the world. There are different e-commerce websites, e-commerce data. So all these things, we take this into relation databases. So for example, it could be MySQL or MS SQL or MS SQL Server, or some file storages like Google Storage or data lakes or any kind of file storage. So from there, we take this to, we do integration. This is the integration, that's a representation here. We integrate all these sources and we can take to data warehouse. Again, this data warehouse also belongs to different products. We have Microsoft Azure, which is Azure Synapse, we call, from Microsoft. We have Google BigQuery, we have Snowflake. There are different data warehouses. Even tomorrow, once you get a job in Power BI, you will be working on different sources. As I mentioned, you can work on Oracle or MS SQL Server, or you can also work on these data warehouses. So I know a few people working in Power BI works on the backend is Google BigQuery. I know a few people who works in Power BI, the backend is Snowflake, or some other sources. So you should be prepared. It's not just always MS SQL Server, but if you know MS SQL Server, it is easy for you to understand these things wherever you go. And from here, we will take this to different BI tools. Now, for example, here it is showing Looker. Looker is from Google. It's not just Looker. Any BI tools that are available, we can create reports. So is it clear for you, especially for the people who are coming for the very first time and who has gap for a long time? This is what we do. The same thing wherever you go. There is no difference. The only thing is the tool is different. The language DAX is different. All the concepts remain same, whatever you're going to learn in the next sessions. Clear? What is the architecture that we are going to use in any company? And what are the different teams you work with in the real time? And what are the sources you might see in the real time?
Hi, Venkata. I have one question.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like sounds good to me. But I have one question. Once the class complete, this recording also are we going to get?
Yes. I'll also share the recording, the read only. You can also keep it for your reference.
Yeah, Murli, just one query here.
Yes, Rafia.
The architect which you have shown, can you go back there?
Yes. Yeah.
The visualization part is a BI part, right? Power BI.
The visual part?
After database, visualization is there, right?
Yes.
Under that, we come across this BI.
Yes, true. So if you see here, the visual part, it's not just a looker. So you can see it is GIF image. That's why it is changing. You can see Google Data Studio, Power BI. These are all different BI tools available in the market. So your role starts from here, which is from data warehouse.
Data warehouse.
So once data is available, yes.
Yeah. So the queries, MySQL queries, taking from the relational database, right? After getting the data from the streaming data or something else. So we are using the MySQL here. Then we are storing the data in the data warehouse, and we are going with the Power BI for the visualization of all the reports. So in the reports also we do use this SQL queries there.
Yes. So I'll just break this up. Now these are your sources. Let's say these are your different sources. So from here till this data warehouse, it is not your role. We have a team called ETL team or data engineering team. So they will extract the data and keep it for you in the data warehouse. Now your role starts from here. You can do two things. Either you can import the tables directly into Power BI. We have something called import option. We will see what is that import. Or let's say, for example, you want to create report based on 5 tables. But not all the time, all the 5 tables are used. Maybe 2 tables are used sometimes, or 3 we can use sometimes, or sometimes 10, 15 tables also. But if a table has 100 columns, we don't use all the 100 columns for your reporting. Maybe out of 100 columns in a table, you may use 2 columns or 5 columns or 10 columns. That is why if you take the entire table with import mode, it will cause the burden for Power BI. Maybe it will accept additional storage. So to reduce these things, we also write queries. In Power BI, there are 2 ways to extract data. Either we can directly take the complete table, or we can write the SQL queries. There is an option. So depends on what data source you are using, or what tables you are using. You might take the tables directly using import mode, or you can also write queries on top of your database to extract only the relevant data for your reporting. Okay. The same queries, the same SQL queries that we use here, we can also use in Power BI to extract the data. But the only difference is here, if you write any queries in in this data warehouse layer, that is only for your reference. If you want to see how the data exists in the backend, that will be helpful for that analysis. But for reporting purpose, you just extract whatever is required for your reporting instead of taking everything to Power BI. That's a good practice we do in the real time. We'll come to that level. We'll see these things. Clear? Rafia?
Yeah, it's clear.
Okay. So let's see something about business. So I want to make sure everyone are comfortable, because if I tell what exactly you're going to do in the real time, it's also easy to understand some concepts in Power BI. That's why this is more of awareness session for the people from having some gap and coming from different non-IT sector. So we use a term called business every day in your real time. What is the business? As I gave some example earlier, if you work with PBI client means the company you work with to create the report. Let's think in that way. So they do theater business. If your client is SBI, they do banking business. If your client is, let's say, let's say Reliance, big one. So they have different businesses. They have groceries like the marts. They have theaters. They have Geo. They have lot of businesses. So once you join any company, you will be assigned something called a project. The project means the work you are going to do. We simply call them as a project. So this project depends on a specific use case. The use case can be from the theater business, the grocery business, or telecom business, anything. Or if your company is, let's say, Myntra, or it is Flipkart, again, so you work on this fashion business. So this is a fashion business. So you work on the reports related to the fashion. So this is called business in general. So depends on your company, depends on the client you're working with, the business will change. Whatever they do, you're going to work on that specific business. So let's say, for example, if you're working for the fashion, now business will ask to create some reports on top of this data. So what they will ask, maybe they wanted to check the sales. Let's say we have any new year sale or some discounted sale is going on. They wanted to see some reports based on that. How many customers are newly have accounts in Myntra, and what is the total sales and what is revenue for us in this specific period, whether it is a profitable or loss. All these called metrics we call. Again, these metrics different from business to business. So few business will deal with the financial, for example, if any business deals with the financial metrics, we have separate metrics. And a few business has, for example, HR, they do, that's the internal reporting. For any company, we have HR department. So they wanted to see some reports for their employees, like headcount of the employees, how many employees are, there for a long time, and what is the attrition rate. Attrition rate means how many people are leaving the company and how many people are there joining the company. Also, they'll measure. And they wanted to see from each team who are the people from different nationalities. Let's say, for example, especially in Dubai, in UAE, we have something called uh, emiratization. So it means like what is the localization of the employees in any company. So they will also measure these things, but that depends on company to company and use case to use case. Let's say out of 100 employees, let's say 10% is locals, something like that. So there are many measures or metrics. We call them as metrics in general, or in Power BI terminology, we call them as measures. We will see about the measures once we start Power BI, and once we go deep into that, we will see about measures. But in a high level, we have to create some metrics, which is called business metrics, in other words, or business logics, in other words, or calculations or measures. All of them are same. Depends on the person. We use different terminologies. So we create these metrics. Let's say if you're working for a banking client, we create a metrics of total employees, total customers, and what is the portfolio of the customers in the loans, and how many customers are paying the loans properly, how many are defaulters, and these are some examples. There are different examples we can take from any business, but at least if you know one or two businesses how they operate. But we will see about in detail once we start Power BI with some example scenarios. We will see in more detail. But just to understand this, how it will be in any company. So once you are assigned to a project, you work with different people. So who are those people? As I mentioned earlier, we are working with database teams and data warehouse teams and all these things. And also we work with some internal teams within your company called project management teams. So we call them as PM team. So what they do? So let's say business will give a project, and project manager in your company take these all the requirements. They manage this project. We have different tools available. So we have something called Jira. We have something called DevOps, Azure DevOps, and there are other tools as well. So most of the companies who are working with Jira, and a few Microsoft based companies, they use Azure DevOps. So this is a place where you track your project progress, how much like every week. For example, let's say today, which is 3rd of Jan, we got a new project. Now, before we complete the project, we give some commitment to the business. Okay, we will take, let's say, 2 months to complete the project, or maybe 3 months to complete the project. So depends on that, your project manager make a plan, and we split these things into different sprints. We call them as sprints. Let's say 2 weeks we have a sprint. It means in the 2 weeks, whatever we do, that's the progress of the project. Like every 2 weeks, we develop something, and based on the progress of these 2 weeks, we will update to the business. That also will happen in any company. So it means we are going to work with other team also called project management team once you start working in the real time. Not just your DBA teams and all these things. We work on project management team. This is a concept of agile. So this is something you will come to know. Maybe you can start reading about this agile who are from non-IT. But this is, most of the companies practice agile methodology to deliver something in the company. It could be from reporting side, or it could be from application side, or any kind of project that we're delivering. We follow this agile process. So who will drive this? Your project manager drive this, working with you and the business together to make the delivery happen in a proper manner in the proper timelines. Clear? Any questions? Forget about agile, forget about Jira DevOps, but understand the process. I'm more interested to make you understand about the process that we see in the real time. So I hope you are able to follow whatever we have discussed so far. So in simple words, you don't just work with only Power BI. Power BI is just a tool to get a job. But once you join the company, you should also know how to work with other teams and how to work with other tools also in the real time. So now, as part of our classes, we are discussing about Power BI Desktop, which is a desktop tool that you use every day to create reports. But not just using Power BI Desktop, using different sources. It could be SQL sources, or it could be, it could be database sources, or it could be file sources. Any source, data source we use in our real time, depends on your company, whatever they're using. We extract data to Power BI Desktop, we create reports here. And we're going to learn something called Power BI service. It's also from Power BI, it's a cloud service. Once you create a report in Power BI Desktop, okay, now you have a requirement, you're done with the development. Now you want to share the report to other user side. Maybe your business users want to see the report, whatever you created. So for them, we have something called Power BI service, which is a cloud service for Microsoft to share the reports. So Power BI Desktop is for developing the reports. Power BI service is sharing the reports. Now we have one called Power BI admin. So in most of the companies, we have something called admins. We have IT administrator. So what they do? So they do work in the backend, making sure everything is available to the development team, giving some access in the backend, making the licenses happen. All these things admin will do. So in many companies, the IT admin also take care of Power BI admin. Or in few companies, Power BI admin has a separate role. You also get a job if you know Power BI admin. Or in few companies, Power BI developers only do Power BI admin. For example, I do both development, I manage the team, I also do Power BI administration. So it depends on, if you know these things, you can also work on all the three together. Of course, first two anyway, you're going to work together. But if you know administration also, it will be advantage for you in the interview also. You can tell that you also worked in admin. So we are going to see the admin activities also in Power BI, whatever the real-time activities that we see in our classes. And we're also going to see about DAX, which is a language we use in Power BI to calculate the metrics or measures or the business logics, I can say. And we will see something about Power Automate. Power Automate, there are three words maybe you will be familiar in the next sessions. Power Automate, and maybe you'll see something like this outside. Power Apps and Power BI. So all these three belongs to Microsoft Power Platform. That's the naming convention Microsoft provided called Power Platform, which contains Power BI, Power Automate, and Power Apps. So Power BI is for example, if you know Power BI, you will work only in Power BI with some additional activities in Power Automate and Power Apps. If you know only Power Automate completely, if you're expert in Power Automate, it means you also get job in Power Automate only, but maybe you will also work on Power Apps and Power BI in some cases. If you know Power Apps, then you will work, vice versa. It means there will be only one major. It could be either Power BI, either Power Automate, either Power Apps, but you don't work in all the three of them in expert level. Because people ask these questions to me often, and also in outside, if you go for any job, they'll keep many things in the job description. They'll put Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate. They will put everything. But don't get panic and don't see the, okay, we don't know all these things. It's just for they just put everything. But in the real time, if you get a job, you'll work any of these things in detail. But since we are learning Power BI now, you'll work in Power BI plus some tasks we do in Power Automate that we are going to cover in our sessions as well. Because if you know just Power BI, no one will believe that you are from real-time person. So you should know about databases. You should know about Power BI. You should know some understanding of Power BI administration. You should know about Power Automate, how it works, at least how it works, And there are few tasks. Power Automate is not, it's not a separate tool. It's automated. It's a RPA, I can say in other words. So where it automates few tasks. The task can be from Power BI tasks. It could be from database tasks. It could be from email tasks. There are any kind of tasks. If you want to automate on any schedule or any triggers in other words, we use Power Automate. There are few day-to-day tasks we use in Power BI with related to Power Automate that also we are going to see. So and yes, we will see about other things as well, which are generally in any company that we need to follow about the meetings, schedules, how we gather the requirements in very detail, in our next sessions. So hope you got some clear picture. What is Power BI? I mean, not in detail. I mean, what is Power BI in the sense? What exactly we do in Power BI, and what are the teams you work with in general, and what is the process we follow in the real time with the help of the architecture that we discussed so far. Before I proceed, any questions?
So to know this end-to-end Power BI, so these are only the tools, right?
Sorry, to work in Power BI?
No, I mean like to know end-to-end Power BI related. So these are all the things we need to have, like Power Automate and apps and all.
No. That is not Power BI. See, if you want to learn about Power BI in detail, there are only two tools. One is Power BI Desktop. Other one is Power BI Service. So these two only. But other
Murli,
thing, yes.
sorry, you guys carry.
So other than these two, whatever we're going to learn, Power Automate, this is like an add-on for you to have some knowledge. Sometimes in few companies we use, but in generally, if you are doing some automation, we can also use Power Automate in general. That is one thing. And also, I forget to mention one more thing. In a few companies, for example, let's say, at least for the interview purpose, they may ask about these things, whether you have any experience in the data integration. So, for example, if you're attending an interview, so in the job description, can you please go on mute? I think I'm getting some resound. So they'll ask whether you know something about data integration. For example, we have Informatica, that is a DI tool. We have Data Stage. We have SSIS from Microsoft. We have Talent data integration. There are many other data integration tools. So they'll also check, because if you are going for Microsoft Power BI, so sometimes they may ask whether you have any experience on these tools. So now it's not SSIS. Very few companies are using. We have something called ADF, which is Azure Data Factory. So we are also covering some basics about ADF in next sessions, just to have some understanding how the ADF works and what is this importance of ADF, at least for the interview purpose. If they ask some question, yes, you can tell, yes, I worked on ADF also in few cases, not in very detail. At least they will prefer, okay, that you know something about other than Power BI. So the idea is not just about Power BI. It is know about Power BI and also the other tools that are linked to Power BI that we use in the real time, in day-to-day basis. for your understanding in better way for the interview purpose, or to talk more about your the experience in the interview. This will be helpful. That's the whole idea. But from Power BI perspective, it's Power BI desktop, Power BI service. In few companies, currently also we are using called Power BI report server. We call them as PBI RS, which is called paginated reports. Currently, we are not taking this, but if I get a chance, we'll also discuss something about this. In few companies, we also use something called SSIS. So we're also not discussing this, but I'll touch base what are these things once you progress in your classes. Yes, Mahendra.
The Power BI services is right. So
Yes.
I'm familiar with actually I'm a Tableau guy.
Okay.
So I'm familiar. So the Power BI services is like a E5 model license, right?
No,
Is it?
no. There are different licenses in Microsoft. We have E3, E5, and all these things, right? So
Okay.
in general, in any company, if you want to work in Power BI as a developer, especially, or to the people whom you are sharing the report. Let's say if you build a report, and if you want to publish a report, publish means like deployment, we call in Power BI called publishing. So either if you want to publish a report, or the report that you published, if anyone want to see the report or access the report, you should have Power BI license, which is called Power BI Pro, which is $10 per month per user. But if your company has E5 license, that includes Power BI. Without purchasing additionally, that includes Power BI.
Okay.
That's a difference.
So one question. So this real scenario. So we have a E5 model license, like 100 users or 200 users, because we got from Office 360 when we merged to Cloud Office 365 tenant.
Yes.
So now we don't have a dedicated reporting server. What I understand, I think we have like a POC we can do for reporting server, like a POC reports, not for dedicated. So one question is, we have a different data models. So if we don't buy reporting server, like Power BI Online, which they give the E5 model, right? Yes. So can we do like can we set up the?
Okay, let me explain. The traditional reporting server is not required in Power BI, so we don't use any on-premises. It's completely cloud. That is first thing. In Power BI, it's completely cloud. But this depends on how many users you have in Power BI. For example, let's say if any organization has 100 users, you have to purchase 100 into 10, which is $1,000 per month for the licensing. Okay, but everything is set up in cloud. We don't need to have any other infrastructure. Only Microsoft manage in the backend. Only thing you have to purchase this licensing per person. But if you have any enterprise level, we have something called Power BI Premium. So we discuss this in detail in our administration part. But anyway, since you asked the question, we have something called Power BI Premium. So which is $5,000 per month. It is not per user basis. It's a capacity base. So these are the options we have in Power BI in general, in any company, because this is a thing Microsoft offers for us. Recently, we have a new licensing also called Power BI Premium per user. We call them as PPU license. We have three things. One is Power BI Pro, which is this one, Pro we call. Other one is Premium. Other one is PPU based. So if you're a large scale organization, we have more than 1,000 users or 500 users in general. They go for Power BI Premium to save the cost, because here we are spending, let's say we have 500 users, so you have to spend $5,000 also here in this first Pro method. But Power BI Premium also is $5,000 only, but it comes with some advantages. Like we have faster data refreshes, we have faster data storages. We have some dedicated capacity in the backend for the V codes, for the faster processing. All these things come with added advantages. But you don't need to build anything. Are you planning to migrate any reports from reporting servers to Power BI? Is this a requirement?
No, actually, I'm a Tableau guy from last 7 years. So my management was saying that learn Power BI. So we don't have a reporting server, but we have a E5 model. Like so,
E5 model works only with the first one. As I mentioned,
the cloud one.
The cloud one. I mean, everything is cloud. But if you have E5 model, It means Power BI Pro is including the EFI model. It means you don't need to purchase $10 separately for any user.
Yeah. We have a unlimited kind of users for everyone. The only thing is now my question is, well, let's say we have a HANA which is hosted on AWS.
Okay.
So we want to get a connectivity. So one of the guy was saying like, hey, we need a reporting server. I said, no, you don't need reporting server. So just schedule a gateway setup between HANA and Power BI.
Yes. As long as it is
Is that
on-premises, we need a gateway.
so now let's say the scenario, so the Power BI is in cloud and SAP HANA is in deployed in AWS. So can we, so now in this case, I don't require Power BI server, what I understood.
No, server is not even required because that's what everything is cloud managed by Microsoft. Only thing is, if your, let's say your source is cloud.
Doesn't matter which cloud is it?
No, doesn't matter. If Power BI is in cloud, source is cloud, we can directly connecting with the help of your authentication. If it is on premises, we use gateways in between.
Okay. So
as long as Power BI supports your data sources in the backend, this will happen seamlessly.
Okay.
Any of this.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Murali.
Yes, Rakesh.
Yeah, hi Murali. So I have a couple of questions. So the first one is I request you to give a brief idea about Power Apps. And the second thing is assume that I have an application and the application is connecting to Power BI service over a service principal, right? So I have 100 users who are logging into the application and using the application, they are connecting to the Power BI through service principal. So will the charges be per user in that case, because it's a service principal using which they're connecting? So I just pay for one user and set up a service principal and people can connect. How does it work usually? Those are the two questions.
Okay, I think we are going very detailed, but anyway, I'll answer your question. Okay, the thing was, people don't know, many people don't know what is service principal also here. Okay, the thing was, when you share reports in Power BI, you mean what I understand was they're accessing the reports through Power BI embedding. Is that happening currently?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. See, we have Power BI service. And you embed the reports into an application, a custom application, where users, instead of opening Power BI service for every time, they can directly look into, they can directly access the reports in your application. That is what we are doing now.
Correct. Yes.
And authentication in the backend happens through the service principal. See, as per my knowledge, see, there are two ways of authentication. For example, if your Power BI report is part of your workspace, because I think you know what is workspace by now, if you are doing these things.
Yes.
So let's say, for example, if there are one report in a workspace, and this workspace is non-premium workspace, it means it is pro workspace without any premium. It means everyone should have the license. So I don't think it's based on service principle as far as my understanding, because we did embedding previous many times. So the authentication happens how you define in the backend. But if the person accessing the reports or not depends on your license only. For example, if let's say 100 users are using the reports in a custom application, but if the workspace is non-premium workspace, it means it's a pro workspace. Every user should have the license in the backend. For the user to authenticate to the report. That is one thing. But if the workspace is premium workspace, it means the workspace is premium workspace and the report is part of premium workspace, then we don't need any additional license for any user. It's only one-time activity because we are purchasing, which is $5K per month, which is a capacity based. So if any report is part of premium workspace, any user without licensing, which we call them as free users, also can access the reports. It can be through embedded or it can be directly in Power BI also. So I see the difference is here because service principal, because now I'm creating a report currently, which is based on Power BI administration API logs. The backend is service principals. And we have some Azure Data Factory logs we are doing, which is also service principal. People use reports in Power BI service many times. It's not charged because the charge is different in the backend Azure. Let's say, for example, if you create the service principals and the app application, if you register the app in Azure, maybe the charges, for that as long as you use this application. But but accessing the report, I don't see. I think, as per my understanding, I don't see the charges based on the service principal or common users interacting. It's based on the users have licensing or not, or the
Sure.
report is part of Power BI Pro Workspace. I mean, premium or non-premium workspace.
Okay, sure, Murali. And Power Apps, could you just quickly high level brief about
Power Apps, I didn't work in the real time very extensively. So I think you would have heard about this terminology in the recent times called low code applications or no code applications.
Right.
So no code or low code, and these kind of terminologies. So for example, let's say if you want to build some any application, we have to write a code in the backend, and deploy these things and purchase something and all, right? So Power Apps is from Microsoft. If you want to build some custom apps very quickly and with minimal code, that is what Power Apps does. That is what even I understand, because other teams does Power Apps in a company earlier, but I didn't have any practical experience about Power Apps. But there is integration to Power Apps to Power BI. Let's say if you want to update something directly from Power BI to Power Apps, we have Power Apps Visual. Even this also, again, depends on your past experience only you can able to understand, right? So I didn't use much code Power Apps, but as far as I understand, Power Apps is a low code platform. Without much hassle of writing a big codes, we can create some custom applications in a quick time.
Sure. Thanks, Murali. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, any other questions? Some chat here. Mahendra, I think there is no installation of Power BI report server. So there are, as I mentioned, there are two platforms we use. One is Power BI. Okay, there are two things actually. If any organization is going for Power BI reporting, there are two options for them. The first option is Power BI desktop. So simply I'll write as PBI desktop. And this is our development environment. So we create reports here. And we deploy the reports in Power BI service, which is a cloud-based. There is no installation required for the service. It's a completely cloud. There is a second option for the companies, which is Power BI report server. We call them as PBIRS. So it means we can develop reports in Power BI desktop. We have a separate desktop for PBIRS, which is called PBIRS desktop, which is again one more tool from Power BI. So we create reports here, and deployment will not be in the service. We don't do deployment here. We have a separate report server, which is called Power BI report server. If any company is going in this method, where they don't want to publish the reports in cloud, they want to keep the reports only in their premises, in on premises, then we have to set something called report server. As long as this is our requirement, this will not be used. In any company, we don't use both. Either we use cloud service or we use report server. Maybe in few companies they can set up both. If they have any financial confidential reports, they can go for report server, and other reports they can go for Power BI service. Guys, people who don't understand these things, ignore these things. Anyway, we'll discuss this in very detail in next sessions. For now, just understand what we discussed so far about the business, these things. So there are a lot to learn. We will see even more in next sessions. So any other questions? Maybe we can just quickly install our Power BI desktop application. So from tomorrow, we'll start with the, using the application, how it works, and different options there. So let's install the application now, and we'll take any other questions in some time. We have 20 minutes more. So the Power BI desktop, which is, as I mentioned, it's a free tool from Microsoft. We can download from internet for free of charge. We don't have to pay any money for this. But only thing is, if you want to publish your reports. For this, we have to pay money. So go to Google, everyone. You can just type Power BI desktop download. So Power BI updates every month. The latest update we have is November 2022 update. So since last 5 years, Power BI updates each and every month except in the holiday season. Let's say now we are in Jan, right? We don't see any new update in January because of holidays and all. We will see new update only in February. That's how it was there for past 4-5 years. So once you just go to Google and look for Power BI desktop download, we can see the download section from Microsoft. So this is the place where we can download the Power BI desktop. In your company, in your organization, people will not be, you will not be able to download these things and install these things on your own, because many companies restrict, something called admin access. So if you're practicing in your own computer or laptop, so you are the admin here, so you can do whatever you want. You can install and uninstall everything. But in the real time, in any company, you cannot install, you cannot uninstall also anything unless you have admin access, if you have any special request for your admin team. So in such cases, what we can do is we can request, we can raise a request in your IT portal, that so that you wanted to install Power BI desktop, so that they will install it for you. But by the time you join the company, this will be ready in your system. But let's say if you want to update these things, any updates happen every Power BI every month. If you want to update a new version, you cannot download. You have to request someone to install on your behalf to install these things. So this is Power BI desktop. So we have mobile version also. We will discuss this, in the later sessions. What is Power BI mobile and why it is used for our day-to-day real time. So click on advanced download options, the second option here. So here we can see the download button. You can download it for now. So recently in the new update, in November update, they changed the look and feel of Power BI, the colors and all. Earlier it was yellow color, completely yellow color in Power BI. Now they brought yellow plus green, match for the more contrast for the color blindness people. So they brought a new changes in Power BI. I already have Power BI in my system, but I'm going to update a new version. So from your end, you have to install the new version. So that's the difference now. So click on download and click on this Power BI desktop. The first option is 64-bit version. And you can click on next. It's very easy to install. There is, no additional knowledge is required. It's very straightforward. They'll download it 1 minute. Depends on your internet speed. It will take some time. So once it is done, so might be for few of you already have Power BI desktop. So if you want to install the new version, make sure you close Power BI desktop, any other existing services that is running in the backend. You can go to Task Manager in your system, and you can look for any Power BI specific things are running here. Then you can close these things. Else you can start installing these things. Now it is downloaded. You click on this. So for me, I think it will show to update because I already have this. For you, it will tell to install complete from the scratch. So click on next. So it's English by default. No need to change. But still we have a language support. So people working in different countries have different language support. Even I work for some Dutch client. They were using Dutch language in Power BI also. So it depends on us. We can change our language. So next. So click on yes. So it will just take some time to read this, and we can start installation. I just compute some requirements of our system, and as I mentioned in the group yesterday, WhatsApp group, at least Windows 8 is required, 8.1 is required. If you have Windows 7 laptop, this will not work. So make sure you upgrade your system or try to use some other system, maybe your family person, if you have any Windows 10 laptop or Windows 8.1 laptop, that will work. If you have Windows 7, I think this will not support that. As per official documentation from Microsoft, it's completely end. So once it is done, we can just click on next, 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 and finish. That's all. It's very easy. So you can install now in parallel, or maybe you can also install later. Up to you. It still takes time. Okay, any other questions we can still discuss in this time? Click on next. Now it's enabled. So make sure you accept this checkbox for sure, mandatory. Then click on next. This is the default path in your system. So C drive, program files, Microsoft Power BI Desktop. You can change the path. There is no issue, but still we can just go with the recommended path, only default path. So there is no much difference. Next. And desktop shortcut, if you want to access Power BI Desktop on your desktop icon itself, we can make it shortcut by default. You can click on install. Now it'll take, I think, 5 minutes or less than 5 minutes, or sometimes 10 minutes, depends on your computer, RAM availability, processing speed, and all. But it's very quick. Okay, see, this is the issue I'm facing. So currently, I have some Power BI services running in the backend. So it's asking me to reboot my system to install. But I'll do this later. So what you can do is, till this step, it is same for both of us, for me and for you. So if you click on next, it will just validate install. Then it will just install Power BI Desktop in your system. That's all. That's the only step pending. Seems it is obstructing something in my backend. So I'll do my restart, reboot of my system. Then I'll install later. So for you, you can proceed. If you have the same kind of errors, maybe you can restart your system and try again. It will be installed without any issues. So for now, I'll now it will install, but again, maybe it will not work properly. Okay, it's still not doing. Maybe I have to restart for sure. I'll do this later. But I'll just show, maybe I'll cancel this for now. Now, okay, it shows finish. I'll show how Power BI Desktop looks. I don't know whether it's updated or not, but I have the older version of Power BI. So on your desktop, this is the Power BI Desktop. I was mentioning one more desktop earlier called Power BI RS. You can see the difference here. This icon looks similar, but this has RS, which is called Report Server. If any company, they use Power BI Report Server as a deployment environment to deploy our reports, they use RS. But most of the cases, people who are going with the cloud service, they use only Power BI Desktop, not the RS desktop. But we see some differences once we progress in our sessions. I'll also show some difference about what is RS desktop, how that different from Power BI Desktop. We'll see that. So this is once you install Power BI Desktop, this is your the tool that is available in the system for access. And this is free. You can download at any time if you have new update. So now see, it is asking me to update. It is still old version. And if you want to see what is the version you install in your system for Power BI, you can open Power BI Desktop application. And there is something called help section here. You can see at the top. Help section. So here, if you click on help section, we will see the about option. Here we can see the version. Now I am using August version, but in the real time, it is not mandatory that you should update to latest version every time. For example, if you have, let's say, August version only in your company also, still it will work for you for creating reports. But any new features that were introduced in the November version, only these things will not be available to you if you want to implement. But as long as there is no need to implement the new features, we can still use old versions. There is no any requirement we should update, mandatorily, but it is good to update. So sometimes in few companies they update automatically, every month as per software updates. Sometimes they don't update. You have to request them manually, through any request ticket, support ticket, and all. They'll install for you. So anything is fine. You can still work older versions, new version, both will work seamlessly without any issues. So we will start about Power BI Desktop tomorrow. So we'll go through in very detail about these options and all the panes available here and data modeling, in next sessions. So I think I'll take few more questions if anyone of you have any questions about this. So we'll start from scratch in Power BI from very basics to the level where you can sustain the real time with more scenarios, more examples from tomorrow. As I hope you understand. Still, if you don't understand, you can reach out to me in WhatsApp. We will discuss. We can connect as well. So that's all for me, for my end. Any questions? We have 10 more minutes. So people who are very new to SQL, I know few people, but still, whoever wants to practice SQL, reach out to me after the class. I'll share the previous class videos of SQL from our classes only. Or if you have any YouTube references, you can also check those classes. But still, I can share SQL videos for you. You can also go through those videos. And every day after the class, now it's recording, right? The classes will be shared through YouTube link for you for your reference. It will be read-only mode. We cannot download, but you can see, you can keep it for your reference for even next year also. There is no issue with that. But being is the first class, I upload this to YouTube generally. So this class, anyway, I'll upload to YouTube publicly. You can also see from there, or you can download from there. But from tomorrow, the classes that I'm going to share will not have download option, but you can have a read-only option. I'll tell the process once I share the video tomorrow to you. Clear? Any questions? Everything is perfectly clear. No other questions from people from non-IT or. Okay, then we'll connect tomorrow. So tomorrow it will be more of practical sessions only. So don't miss, and we will see the actual real case scenarios once you're familiar with the Power BI desktop. Yeah, that's all, guys. I think if there are no questions, we can conclude.
Yeah, perfect.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
Murli.
You're going to learn more and more in the coming sessions. Please make sure you have time to practice. That's all I request everyone. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Murli. Bye.